Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome back to another episode of the BioWar Devblog. In today's episode we're finally taking a look at the cynical young Royal Commando sniper Charlie Harolds. Before we start, I would like to thank everyone for their enthusiasm so far, as well as the questions you have been posting on these videos. They really help to shape the future of this series, as well as the series of videos too. But for now, we're going to turn our attention to Charlie Harolds. Born in 1928, Charlie Harolds grew up in a small mining village in Derbyshire, England, where he spent the majority of his childhood isolated from the world outside of his street. Though Charlie usually refuses to say any more than this, rumour has it that one individual has been able to get him to talk more on his past. Though we won't be discussing that individual until next year. For now, however, I think it's time we take a dive into one of the Brave Commando's chapters and see more of what he can do. "Move!" Robert bellowed as the bunker toppled onto one side. The growls and wails of bio-soldiers could be heard in the distance. With our stealthy insertion in ruins, we had to forgo any subtlety and sprint to the first target. Shouldering my Lee Enfield and drawing my Viper, I forced one foot in front of the other, throwing myself over obstacles as I tried to keep up with my squad. "Here they come, left side. Don't engage unless they're on your heels," Robert ordered from up ahead. I watched him put his full body weight and force of movement into a knife swing, decapitating one of the bio-soldiers as it got too close. Catching up to Albert, I nudged his shoulder. "How far?" "100 metres ahead, probably," Albert replied, drawing a modified flare gun from his backpack. That was the special equipment we had been given for this operation. A modified flare gun and a new, strange kind of flare. All we were told was to stay well aware from the flare's impact point. "Probably," I replied. I felt something impact against my left shoulder and immediately grabbed it. Feeling the distinctive mushy flesh of a bio-soldier, I pushed it away and sprayed a hail of rounds from my Viper into the creature. Seconds later, we came into a clearing, the centre of which was home to a large, fleshy-looking chimney. This was one of the smaller rocket pits, designed to spit out smaller and less precise suborbital rockets than the V2s. These could pump out almost 100 rockets a day to target major cities. No wonder it was one of our targets. "Everyone, stand back! Albert, do your thing and we'll get to cover," Robert bellowed. Instinctively, I turned and crouched, steadying my breathing as I peered down my scope. A small gaggle of bio-soldiers were ploughing towards us, hobbling and stumbling as they ran on half-rotted legs. Whatever this hive mind was, it didn't seem able to convert human corpses into bioweapons very well. The best this hostile entity could manage was reanimating the corpses, like zombies, but the rotting process couldn't be stopped. Lining up my sights on the lead creature, I pulled the trigger. The bio-soldier's head flung back, the neck audibly cracking even over the sound of my own gunshot. Toppling over, several of the other bioweapons tripped over the re-killed corpse, only to be torn to bloody ribbons by Donald Zvicker's machine gun. Charlie's background. As we have already discussed, Charlie's early life is relatively unknown besides where he was born and raised, and his story is only picked back up in 1946, where a desperate 17-year-old Charlie signs up to fight in Europe against the bioweapons. Despite having no prior experience, this young boy showed an aptitude for marksmanship and was slated to become a sniper in the infantry reconnaissance units. Though Charlie was originally destined for the infantry, his enlistment papers were muddled up, somehow finding their way into the next roster of potential Royal Commando recruits. A year of being thrown in at the deep end later, and Charlie became one of the best snipers in the Royal Commandos by the age of 18. Contrary to his many successes, however, Charlie still found it difficult to get along with his squad, feeling that their wealth of experience made them detached from their humanity. A sentiment that would become a cruel irony for Charlie later down the line. Now, the more astute among you may have realised I have put these two categories together, and that, in part, is for one very simple reason. Both of these sections are too short and too closely related to be covered separately. One of the key inspirations for Charlie as a character was simply imposter syndrome. Far younger and lacking the experience of his comrades, Charlie feels at odds with his squad, at times causing more than one difference of opinion on the battlefield. With regards to Charlie's personality, he falls perfectly within his inspiration. Quiet, nervous, and lacking the confidence to operate independently with any real conviction. While this would somewhat change after the war, that's for another video. Unfortunately for today's video, Charlie has much more content coming after the first book, something I'm not quite ready to discuss yet. The first Royal Commando Squad. It's now time to talk a little more about Charlie's team, the first Royal Commando Squad. Similar to the situation in the RAF, the release of bioweapons into Europe forced drastic changes in how the commandos operated. With the fatality rates surpassing 90% within the first month of the Royal Commandos engaging the bioweapons, each regiment was disbanded and instead formed into 4 to 5 man squads, each specialising in a different aspect of the roles expected of them. Becoming similar to modern day Tier 1 special operations groups, each squad could be expected to fight anywhere on the planet, whenever it was required. As the war raged on and more experienced troops were lost on the front lines, recruitment and therefore replacement units for the Royal Commandos fell flat, leaving the remaining teams as the last of their kind. Charlie's weapons. Charlie has several weapons in his arsenal that he uses throughout the book, almost none of which are entirely standard issue. First up, we have Charlie's carbine. Issued to him during the Siege of Paris, this extremely quiet, suppressed 45 automatic Colt pistol carbine was developed almost for the exact purpose Charlie used it for during the battle. Based on the Legion field action, this rifle is lighter than its standard issue counterpart. In Charlie's case, however, this is offset by the Department for Defence's orders that he test a new type of infrared scope, which drastically increases the carbine's weight. By the end of the siege in Paris, both Charlie and his squad are painfully aware of how unsuited to their mission the suppressed carbine is, and soon after requisition a standard issue Lee Enfield No. 4 rifle for their young sniper. Still equipped with the infrared scope, some undisclosed modifications had been made to the design, reducing the weight of the gear and making it much more practical for Charlie to use. There isn't a lot more to say about this rifle, other than the fact that it stays with Charlie for the rest of the book. The Viper Mark I is an unusual weapon for the time, to say the least. Designed as a single hand-fired submachine gun, this has been Charlie's standard backup weapon for as long as he can remember. Having a submachine gun in such a compact size compared to his squad's Patchet SMGs allows Charlie to be much more flexible on the battlefield, rarely having to rely on his Webley revolver, even to the point that he stops taking the revolver on some missions in favour of more ammunition stowage. And that's about it for Charlie's weapons. Though his comrades use a broader range of equipment than Charlie, we can cover this in another video. Q&A. Is that time again? I'm sure you are all delighted to hear what is on the list for today. First up, we have a question from the YouTube comments section. Fourth video I've seen of BioWar, and I still have no idea what's going on. Are you making your own game? Also, when will you make new AAF reserves lore? Well, to answer this one, BioWar is a planned and currently in development series of novels and short stories. While I would love to learn how to make my own game one day, I don't have anywhere near the amount of patience, time or technical know-how to even start. As for the AAF reserves content, there will be more of that to come eventually, but for now I am focusing on the BioWar videos. A question submitted by a friend was, are you going to go into more detail about the technology in the book? Absolutely. Soon enough there will be some dedicated videos just for the guns, vehicles and equipment that predominantly feature throughout Book 1, with some potential teasers for later instalments. Development update. For today's update, there isn't really a massive amount that's different. The stories are coming along well and the future videos are all planned out. One piece of interesting news though is that you may notice a difference in microphone quality. This is because I have finally acquired a better setup and will be trying to use this from now on. Well, that is about it for today. Once again, thank you for watching, and I look forward to the next video where we'll be covering the one, the only, Carl Bell.